So our lifeline of queens has arrived. Now look at that. Absolutely beautiful. These are from a company called Tenuta Retiro, which we have had them before. They're absolutely fantastic. These are open mated buckfast queens, the cheapest ones they do, but we find they are really good. And they come coded because that's the breeder number and the where the queen came from originally. So if you ever have any issues, we do like this. This is one of the beauties of being part of European Union. Tut tut. Where we've got a bee escape. They actually had one cage that come open. I don't know how, but it arrived in the post beautifully packed up. I'm just giving them all a water. And what I do is I put a glass of water out the night before so it loses its chlorine value. And then basically I just put them on their end like this and give them a drop. So they've got some drink should they need it, should if they're a bit dry, and just like that, really simple. We're not going to use these today because, believe it or not, it's still raining. Well, obviously, believe it or not, it's typical weather. But we're going to be starting putting these in tomorrow. There's 50 for me, 50 for my colleague, and we're all going to be just working through all of our colonies and using them up. We probably won't have enough for all the ones because we've had probably more than 50 of them swarmed each. But time will tell. So, but anyway, what a lovely product. They've got much better weather now, and they were going to send us 50 this week and 50 next week, so 25 each. But as it happened, they've actually sent us 100 at once, which is better for me because I need to get these in now, so these will be laying by next week, not just arriving in the post. So I'm really pleased. So that's them all done. That's all we need to do. I'll close these up again later, keep them a little bit warmer tonight. But then tomorrow, there's some lovely big fat juicy queens in that. That is the encouragement I needed. Just show you this. This is the honey that I've got going to um, clients. I use their apiaries, or use their land to put my apiaries on. And I put this in the pot 2 days ago, and look already. It's already virtually crystallized. This is classic spring honey. And we are moving to glass, but these are kind of, I know I said this last year, but I just use these plastic pots to pay my clients, and a lot of them actually do keep the pots and give them back to me so I can use the same ones again. They're happy with that. I wash them out carefully, and they are into renewing stuff. So bit of honey there as well. That's some spring honey. A little bit later done that one, but that's last year's chestnut, nearly all gone. The buckwheat's all gone. Even though we had buckwheat and people said they found it unusual, they all absolutely love it, which is interesting. So anyway, tomorrow we're going to get these out, as I said, and moving forward, hopefully we will get that better weather tomorrow, and we will see. So a little bit dark here under all these trees, and these are all going to be cut back pretty soon. I've had to use this apron because I've basically run out of space. But today, or this afternoon, I've been sorting out a lot of nucs and really finding I've got to dig deep to not lose the plot and throw everything in the air and just scream out loud and all the rest of it because there's a lot of lovely nucs here and they're all virtually all queenless. They all received really nice queens 2 weeks ago when I undid the tabs on the cage, well, 10 days ago, 11 days ago. And the weather has basically meant that the bees have not accepted them. Some are accepted, some are beautiful, but I've had to use a load of other queens to make these queenless again. And I'm pretty sure they'll all be accepted second time around because I'll show you what I've done. Let me just flip the camera around here. And the great thing is I'm using this new app and you can actually flip the camera around while you're talking. What I've got is these are the eggs you saw me making in the workshop. So basically I can put a feeder on underneath that and I'll show you what I've done. I'm just putting the rubber bands back on to hold them all on if it blows, but here is really sheltered anyway. So basically here, for example, I've had to put a new queen in. That's the mark I put on the box. It means there's a cage, but obviously it's a cage queen. I've given them pollen sub and they're all on the pollen sub. The trouble is, you see, this is what's so frustrating is the colonies are perfect. They're really gentle, they're really big, they haven't started laying workers yet or drone laying. You know, so I've got a queen back in there. I've given them syrup, spilt a little bit there. You'll see here, I've spilt this on the top, I know. There's the queen. She'll be accepted really, you can see just down there at the top of the cage, she'll be accepted really quickly, but I'm going to pop the tabs on these tomorrow once they've had a good feed and they've got some protein in them. So on goes my eek like that. See how it fits perfectly, and it means you can feed pollen sub, and it means you can give liquid feed, and then the top goes on. You can use a bit of ice insulation top on there to help it seal even more, but there's no real need because now the bees have got numbers and they've got strength, and we've got temperatures. So I'm going along now and putting the covers back on. I'm finished for the day. I've done all these 18. I did another apiary this afternoon, which was similar. I know it's a bit shaded here, but it shouldn't make any difference. I'm just so kind of annoyed that I'm having to use really good, expensive resources to right this problem. But I don't want to lose these nucs. I don't want to. I've spent the money on getting the nucs from the colonies, and the problem is some of the colonies I took these three frame of bees and brood nucs from are struggling to recover now. So I'm better off concentrating on these, and once that queen starts laying, they'll almost instantly be exploding because they're really big colonies. They're really big nucs. They're on 5 frames, and they need a 6th frame already. So that's why I've given them all a feed and pollen sub, because there's no pollen at all in the colonies, and they're munching through the stores really quickly. We've had 2 days of flyable weather. The drones are all out flying everywhere, which is great, and it's lovely to see. And I mean, last night I came back at 6:30, and it cleared through again, and I thought there was a swarm at the bottom of the garden, a huge one in the air, and I thought I must go down and see what's going on now. Here we go. It was nothing. It was just a drone flying. And last night I had a really good bee chat with a group of bee farmers in the UK, and it's apparent it's not, it's not just me. Everybody is absolutely, rolling up their sleeves and kind of right, bring it on, let's get on with this. How much worse can it get? So we're just hoping. In the UK, for example, at the moment they've got a lot of hawthorn in flower, and that's kind of mid-England, mid-UK. I suppose the level would be around North London, the Midlands. It's still in full flower, but south, right on the south coast, it's virtually finished. Here, there's not even any white left. There's not even any white at all left on the hawthorn, and that's the end of it. That's our flow gone. And even if we had really hot weather, I would think the bees would struggle. But there is some field beans up the road, and they're all within flying distance. So if it goes hot, they'll be on the field beans, which will give in 23, 24, 25 degrees C. So it's positive. But I think the reason why these queens were rejected is because the bees were so suppressed by the weather. There was no pollen coming in. There was no nectar coming in at a time that there should have been. And I know that's what happened. Obviously, you always get a few rejected because the bees aren't happy. But we make the nucs mostly from colonies that are good genetics. We say that they're calm, they're not running on the frames. That's a help already. Then you put them in a box. You give them plenty of food. I give them a whole frame of honey. They had that. They were made at a time when they should have been gathering honey and nectar, but they weren't. And that's probably my mistake. I should have got the feeders on even earlier, and that may have saved a few more. But at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. And I'm past worrying now. I'm just like, my management now is just head down, backside up in the air, and just get on and keep going. Because now we've got to catch up. Now we've got to get those things back up and running where they were. Because we are so far behind. I would have had another series of cells coming out. So I would have had cells to put in these if I wanted, or obviously I've just bought some queens, but I've had to use quite a few of those queens on this. I haven't even got into the apiaries yet, really. But surprisingly enough, when you're in the apiary, it's not so bad. You can give frames of brood from colonies to other colonies that are queenless, and that sometimes bolsters them up. And then when those are a bit stronger next week, that brood's hatched. As long as there's enough bees in that colony that you give a frame of brood to cover that brood, the colony is saved as far as I'm concerned, because there's still plenty of time to get a cell in there so that they can go off and mate. Yes, it does pull a bit of resources from your other colonies, but You know, what do? You can't. I'm always said I hate being one of those people who always brings a hive that's empty home. I like to refill it where it is because it's just pointless. So um, it's just now, as I said, getting on that management to minimize the losses, damage limitation, going around everything, working as hard as I can, and hopefully, we'll get back up to where we were before. I mean, I was in a nuke. I've got one nuke over there that's a swarm that I brought here because I was on the way here from another apiary. I put it down on the ground. I've just looked at it just now. In front of me, they balled the virgin queen that hadn't mated yet. And that's exactly the scenario you expect because they're just like, the person at the top gets the blame in the bee world. And every time, when they think there's a problem with the feed or the nurse bees or whatever, who gets the chop? It's the queen. They're trying to supersede her. This is exactly what we're seeing, or we've seen, when you make nukes. And I have never ever seen weather like this. I've never seen such a prolonged period of bad weather. I know it's farming. I know it is what it is, kind of thing, but it's pretty unusual. So we're just going to have to put it down to experience and hope that it isn't global warming, and hope that it isn't going to be becoming a regular feature, because if it is, we are going to have to change our practices massively. So anyway, little video today on what I've been doing, and I will get back to you when I'm in the apiaries, and we will probably go through some hives there. But that's tomorrow. I'm going back home now to get sorted out, get cleaned up. It's Friday night. I just want to I'm glad I've got all my nukes done, fed, pollen subbed. So they've got everything they could possibly want, even if they can't find anything out there. But they are bringing in pollen, and as well as the field beans, we have got some clover coming on board. And I mean that short clover we get in the UK and Europe that is, knee-high to a grasshopper, but it's still a good food when it's warm and when there's plenty of moisture in the ground, of which there is right now. So things can turn around. I'm being positive. I don't want to get stuck into a rut. We just got to keep going and do the best we can. So have a great weekend. Speak to you again soon. Bye bye.